Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. And on today's episode, we are deep diving into the Bad Batch episode 9. Our reaction, our review is just inside.
What's up, everybody? We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and today we are talking Bad Batch episode 9, Bounty Lost. Guys, this is your spoiler warning. We're going to talk about the events of this episode because it's a big one. And you want to watch the episode before you watch us so you don't get spoiled. And guys, make sure you hit that like button, that comment, subscribe. Do all the YouTube things that we need to keep growing and make more content for you guys. Now, speaking of a crazy episode, Cad Bane, right? Captures Omega. He's on his ship, flying into the universe, trying to make his money. And we see a little interaction with Bane, his robot Todo, and Omega, right? He treats Todo like shit. And I don't know if that's just a reference to The Wizard of Oz or not. No, nobody cares about Todo in that movie, and I guess nobody cares about Todo in the Bad Batch either.
I cared about Todo in that movie. I'm a dog person. So I loved Todo and I hated Todo because either way, he's like still a douche.
Yeah,
but he's like a lovable little droid who's just trying to like put his foot back on.
But he's also dumb. He lets Omega fix him, and we're like, we know she's just going to do that to escape. Don't do it, and he does it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of building towards it, right? Like we saw, he's like, "No, you're a prisoner. You can't. You need to stay there, and I'm gonna do it myself." And he's like, "Well, I can't really do it, so I'm gonna like let you do it." Because Bane's like ignoring him the whole time, and it's just walks off. But yeah, like there was a couple things with Bane on the ship that I noticed, and one thing was he kind of tips his hat to Omega and is like, "Hey, my name's Cad Bane at your service," blah blah blah, with his awesome Western theme music in the background.
Yeah.
And he has this like metal plate running on his head, which to me was kind of this confirmation of this old Clone Wars arc that went on. And in this arc, it was never finished. So it's not, there's no way you can go on Disney Plus and just watch it. But it was never finished. It was supposed to be him versus Boba Fett in kind of this old school shootout.
Okay.
And Boba was going to like eventually get him and shoot him in the head. Maybe he was supposed to die then, obviously not now. And he was supposed to shoot Boba in the helmet, where Boba kind of explaining Boba's famous bullet dent in his helmet back from like Empire Strikes Back. So that was really cool to see that. Oh no, they're continuing that plot line that never finished.
Yeah.
But it's now just kind of an unsaid thing that, it's probably like he got shot in the head by Boba Fett.
So we know that he's working for one of the Kaminoans, right? We saw that phone call. And he's talking to Lama Su. Lama says, "Hey, I need you to bring the target to this rendezvous point." And Lama Su talks to Nala Se, saying, "Hey, yes, we need her. We're going to get her information, her DNA. And then once we're done, we're going to dispose of her, get rid of her, like we do any other failed clone project."
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy just because it was so final. And like, Lama Su obviously is the prime minister, right?
Yeah.
But it was very like, yep, we need to extract this from her. And now she's done, dispose of her, like literally kill the kid is basically what they're saying. And obviously the confirmation of getting, now knowing that Lama Su was the one to contact the bounty hunters and Cad Bane going after her is something that I think most people were like theorizing.
Yeah.
But I thought myself, Robin, I'm sure you did too, that was like a, oh crap moment of like, okay, this just kind of got notched up to 10 or 11.
Because, it got notched up because they want to get rid of Omega, right?
Yeah.
And they continue on with the Kaminoans, right? Like one half doesn't know what the other one is doing, right? We find out later towards the end of the episode that Fennec Shand, who makes an appearance, which we'll talk more about what she does in the episode, but she was hired by Nala Se to protect Omega from Lama Su. So obviously she has her own agenda. She cares for the kid, right? Now, obviously one's going to find out what the other one is doing. Do we think anything bad's going to happen because of that?
I think so. I think we're going to see, maybe some type of, I know a lot of people hate this with Star Wars, but some type of political, civil war going on within Kamino. And you have, the prime minister, he's the head of the planet. He's the one who makes the decisions, deciding to, yes, it's killing the girl, but it may be their financial future for the entire planet that he's running for the next, God knows how long the empire is going on kind of thing. And Nala Se is like, I'm attached to the kid. I'm going to protect her. Maybe there's something we don't know that she made a deal with Jango Fett, with her as well.
Ooh, maybe.
Because, we find out obviously that she is a first generation clone. She's just like Boba. They reference, Alpha, which is
Yeah.
was Boba's code name, and back in episode 2, we find out that Jango wanted, a son not altered, that doesn't have that age up process, that is just born naturally, well, as naturally as a clone can be. So Omega is technically Boba Fett's little sister. Like, that's a big thing.
It is. I mean, I can definitely see them having a civil war, and then maybe it get fixed or resolves itself by the time Mandalorian comes out.
Ooh.
And I could kind of, the reason I say that is because we know the Kaminoans want Grogu to do experiments on, right?
Yes.
So maybe the winning side of the civil war, the civil dispute, happens to be the cold and heartless, hey, we need to do what we need to do to make money to live side of things, instead of, hey, they're people too, they have feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that results of that discomfort that we're seeing now maybe results in a civil war. Maybe we see the aftermath of like, oh, we're going to be cold and ruthless and clone everybody to make money. And that's kind of like the moments that we see now in Mandalorian.
Yeah. And as like Rob is saying Civil War and I'm saying Civil War, we're not thinking on the scale of like, the battle between Captain America and Iron Man. I'm saying within Kamino, within this system, within their political system, there can be a civil war, even if it seems small, but it has massive ramifications.
So eventually Omega does escape, right? She's trying to call the Bad Batch, and she needs to get a signal booster to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to the Bad Batch finally getting that signal, going to rescue him. But more importantly, they figure out that Omega is, like Chris was saying, the direct descendant of Boba Fett and Jango Fett. She's an original pure clone. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, we need to hurry even quicker now because the Kaminoans want her. And by the time the Bad Batch gets there, like all the big fun they missed out, right? Cad Bane interacts with Fennec Shand. They go at it, bang for bang, buck for buck. They're shooting. It's great to see two bounty hunters going across each other.
Love it. Give me all the bounty hunter wars.
It could have been stopped if they trusted each other, because at one point they were like, hey, listen, you take the kid. You take the money. I'll take the kid, because they killed the guy that the Kaminoan sent, which we knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, listen, you can take the money. That's fine. I'll just take the kid and we'll go. And if Cad just said yes and took the money, they didn't have the fight. But they don't trust each other. We get this amazing shootout that eventually results to Omega jumping in an escape pod, blasting off, and Wrecker saving them last second. So it was a lot of high octane, a lot of high fun, and
it's great.
Just seeing more of Cad Bane fighting Fennec Shand was something that I didn't know that I wanted, but it was so cool to see, because they took their time, built up Fennec Shand in this universe a little bit more, built up everything around her, and now we're getting better payoff.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Everything from the rendezvous point looking eerily close to Cloud City, if not an early version of Cloud City from Empire, before I guess Lando came in and redid the whole place and got it thriving again. It looked just like it. It was literally a city in the clouds. It's hard not to think of that. To the pods looking like, here's a fun one. The pod that Omega takes out looked very much like Vegeta's spaceship when he lands on Earth.
Pod? Yeah.
The escape pod. So that was something funny, but yeah, I love the bounty hunter wars, man. I want all the bounty hunters fighting. I loved how like actual combat-y it was. It seemed like someone was in there doing either a mocap of actual like judo movements and stuff like that, kind of like what they did back in Clone Wars with Ahsoka versus Darth Maul. And I just really liked opening up these characters again. Cad Bane, a character we saw in Clone Wars, got a lot more time to open him up in this episode. Fennec Shand comes back in a way where it's like, oh, cool. I should have guessed that, but oh, cool.
Yeah, right.
And he even knows, right? He's like, you're young, you're not ready for this. And she's like, we'll see. And she had him a couple times.
She had him a couple times.
She had the explosive, knocked him out for a bit, got him down, flipped him over, but he had those like awesome the ankle jetpacks.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved it. I thought a couple things were interesting to me, Rob, and I want to see what you thought of this.
Yeah.
When Omega's kind of going in to get that boost signal, we see these kind of old vats, these old
I knew you were gonna bring
cloning vats. And it was something that I was like, of course, Mr. Easter egg. I'm like, what's in there? What's in there? Trying to figure it out.
Is Snoke in there?
Yeah, I'm like, what is it? And that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, this kind of looks more towards the sequel series of stuff that we see. But when she dumps one on Fennec Shand, which was gross and hilarious, we see it was a Kaminoan inside.
Yes.
So are they all cloning themselves normally?
Maybe.
Is it something that is like, or was it like, oh, we're going to practice on ourselves before we do it with like other beings and we get it down? Very odd situation.
What if all the employees and workers at the Kaminoan facility are just the same person, just cloned? Like, does this mean this can mean either everything or nothing in Star Wars?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's like all of the Kaminoans are clones. Oh, cool. Does that mean anything? I guess not, right? Maybe not, but maybe yes. Maybe it means everything. Maybe they're Vader, right? Like it can mean everything. I don't know. It's kind of the fun with Star Wars, right? You theorize and hold on to these things. I mean, just being a pop culture fan, like it could be like Mephisto's and everything, or it's not, and you're over exaggerating, right? So like, are we over exaggerating about them cloning themselves and maybe all working for this, and maybe? To maybe duality of minds. A part of him wants to do this, and the other part doesn't. And Lama Su, Namaste. Are they all one person? I don't know. Is there a hive mind? I don't know.
I have no idea, but it took a lot of what we see Taun We die. Like Fennec Shand kills Taun We because Taun We was sent by Lama Su to pick up Omega.
Do we care that he died?
Is Taun We like dead now forever? Is it a clone? Like if something happens between Lama Su and Namaste, is one of them just going to come back later? Like. It's just one of those questions, but like, poor Taun We, who we saw in episode 2, she was kind of just like the messenger for everyone, right? She rings the bell and is like, Boba, is your dad home?
Boba, is your father here?
And he's like, oh, Dad, Taun We's here. So like, that's a cool character that we saw now is absolutely dead. But absolutely loved the entire fight scenes, all of them. I even liked when Omega's trying to run away on the ladder and Todo's like, no, come back here. And he's like, trying to grab her. And then she jumps on his head. So it was really fun. I thought it was another really good episode, Rob, personally.
So one quick thing, and then I got a question for you.
Ooh.
At the very least, the cloning vats that we saw there signifies that cloning is a big staple in Star Wars, right? It's just another fact.
Mm-hmm. And
we're just going to get a clone Vader down the line. But moving on, right?
Better not.
Here's the question. Now that we know the Bad Batch is reunited with Omega, how does the Bad Batch continue? How do they keep Omega away from the Kaminoans, from the bounty hunters? Like, and now we have like Rex and Ahsoka might be in the mix with the other rebels. We know Fennec Shand is there. Like, how are they going to keep their heads above water? Because now they know why they're there. They just dealt with the Empire. They dealt with the Kaminoan bounty hunters. So like they're probably going to go seek refuge somewhere, right? I can see them this next episode. Maybe going to Sid to get more help. Maybe contacting Rex and getting allies, and maybe Ahsoka being one of them, which hopefully not. I want them to avoid Jedi because then once you introduce Jedi, you can't unintroduce a Jedi into the series, right? So it's like, how are they going to be okay?
That's a really good question. I think, number one, you have to put Boba in this somehow. Whether it's an episode or
Why
two.
Why do you have to?
So now the Bad Batch know Omega's direct connection to Boba Fett, where he was Alpha, she's Omega. They mention it in the episode. We saw, Cad Bane's metal plate. All of that to me is hinting towards like, hey, no one knows where this kid is, but maybe he has some answers that can help us. That very heartwarming nightmare scene at the very end of this, where like Omega comes out and talks to Hunter while everyone's asleep. And it's kind of just like, how do we know, like, if I'm this special and they're going to keep coming after me, how do we stop it? Like, how do we technically get away? I doubt this is the last we've seen of Cad Bane. I doubt, there may be more bounty hunters along with him. It might be a fight to see who gets to her.
Well, one last thing, right? With the Alpha and Omega, right? Boba and Omega. Alpha and Omega, right? Alpha is the beginning, Omega is the end, right? So does Omega mean that's the last clone?
No,
like,
I think
is that like the literal meaning? Like, oh, she's the last clone. She's Omega, right? And like, we're not going to get any more.
She may be, in the sense of, if obviously they're not going to let her go back to Kamino, then they can't make more clones, right? We know Jango Fett's original DNA is fleeting. It's basically run out. They can't really do anything else with it, and they need Omega's tissue sample or whatever to make more clones, better clones, maybe force-powered clones. We don't know for their Phase 3 project. So Omega could be the last, but she's definitely the last first generation clone. She's the last, original non, genetically enhanced clone in some way. So she is very important to an entire system's kind of longevity, its GDP, all that boring stuff. But at the same time, she's a person who deserves her own life and her own choices and all that stuff. So I think the logical choice is the Bad Batch, with all their different unique skills, need to find Boba Fett wherever Boba Fett is, whatever Boba Fett's doing, and figure out what's going on. That, and we may see the introduction of him and Fennec Shand because we know they team up later. We're getting that in Book of Boba Fett.
Isn't Boba a child right now? Isn't he the same age as Omega?
He's a little older, so he'd be like a young teenager right now.
And maybe they're going to get Boba just to get answers.
That's what I'm thinking. They need to find him at least
For answers.
for the questions that they cannot answer and that they cannot afford to go back to Kamino and answer. So maybe that's where you said, Sid comes into play. They go back to Sid and say, hey, this kid, he's like Omega. Have you heard anything about him? And she's like, well, I kind of have. And that's where the trail picks up next of like, they need to find a young Boba Fett while he's in the middle of becoming the Boba Fett and see what happens there.
I think so. Like, I see it. Like you're thinking like the Bad Batch are going to go for more answers. I think they're going to go for more protection. I think they're going to reach out to Cut and Rex or something like that, kind of like build up their own little like forces, maybe to take them out. Guys, we want to hear your theories down in the comments below. What you think is going to happen in the next episode of Bad Batch and the rest of the series? Do you think they're going to find a young Boba Fett? They're going to reach out for more allies for support? Is Crosshair going to make a comeback and take out the Bad Batch? Are they going to save them? Too many theories to count.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more of our Bad Batch coverage or any coverage of anything else that we do on this channel. And as always, make sure to check out our social medias at Jersey Comic Crew on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.